Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're having a chat with Patrick Smith, who is the Principal and Senior Solicitor at O'Brien Smith Lawyers here in Horsham. Patrick is a local guy with a young family here, and we really welcome Patrick to provide his expertise on general estate planning. And so thanks Patrick, thank you for coming, we really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Rob.
Thought we'd cover off powers of attorney. And whilst a lot of clients go and see a solicitor and they organise a will, quite often people don't seem to have powers of attorney. So can you give us an overview of what a power of attorney does and the different types that are available, please?
Sure. So, firstly I'd say it's just as important as a will. Quite often things happen now where people are injured or have some health issues where they can't make decisions, but they're still alive, so a will's not taking effect, and you need something to actually say what should happen in that circumstance. In terms of the types, the first one that we talk about is personal and financial power of attorney. So personal takes care of things such as where you live if you could make that decision for yourself, and financial makes decisions such as moving money on your behalf, so from one account to another bank account, and even buying and selling property. So it's an important document. With that document as well, you can actually determine when it takes effect. So you could say that it takes effect immediately upon signing, so you could have it act on your behalf straight away. Or you could say that I only want it to take effect once a doctor says I can't make decisions myself. Generally, we find most clients do make that decision, that they say I don't want it to take effect until a doctor makes that determination, just so they have control as long as possible.
Right, and that stops a power of attorney holder, who might be the greedy grandson perhaps, saying, grandfather's gone mad, I now take over everything and take control of the assets.
Not really, because I guess it's saying that he can have control straight away. If you have that option, it doesn't even say you've lost his capacity. It's
right.
Just straight away that next day he can go to the bank and say, look, I've got the power of attorney, I want to move this money from here to there. Now, if they did do that, you can then go and see a solicitor and he's going to be in big trouble. But why let that happen in the first place? Safeguard it by saying, well, no, it doesn't take effect until the doctor says I can't make decisions myself.
So Patrick, is a financial and personal power of attorney, is that a separate document or the one document?
We can actually do that in one document, which makes it a bit simpler. As it says, both personal and financial matters, and then you have it under the same commencement. So whether you do want to make that option of saying immediate, or whether you have that option when a doctor says I cease to have decision-making capacity.
Right, and the term enduring power of attorney, is that enduring? Has that got any meaning anymore, or? It
does. It still means that it will continue to take effect even when you lose decision-making capacity. So if you've gone with that first option of saying I want it to take effect immediately, if you don't have enduring, so you just have a general power of attorney, it'll actually cease when you cease to have decision-making capacity. So it's only for that period. What we do want though, most of the time when we want it to have effect is when you no longer have decision-making capacity. So that's why it's important to have enduring power of attorney.
And from a practical point of view, and not as devastating point of view of losing capacity or in a coma or something, we've had clients that have come in and said, we're on holiday for the next 3 months. Here is some type of limited term. Yeah, how does that work?
So you can limit it to specific transactions. For example, you might want a house to settle while you're overseas. An example that's quite often, maybe not so much at the moment, but historically where you head away and say, I want my son to be able to sign this paperwork while I'm gone, and that power of attorney can actually limit it to signing paperwork related to that transfer, and it will expire on a set date as well. So again, you've got complete control over what decisions are made.
Fantastic. In terms of choosing power of attorney, where you go for financial and personal, would you recommend more than one person take on that role?
Yeah, I would. Not necessarily, they don't need to act together, so you don't need to have two people acting jointly or separately. You could say, I want my son to act initially, but if he can't act for whatever reason, then my daughter acts. But it's good to have more than one, just in case something does happen to your first choice.
Fantastic. Now, the next power of attorney, and I think this might be new terminology when the rules were changed recently, the medical treatment decision maker.
That's right.
Not nice mouthful for us. Is these terms relatively new?
That's right. So it's pretty much what a medical power of attorney was previously, which I think probably is easy to understand in some sense. But what it does is determines who you want to make decisions for you in terms of your medical treatment, as the name suggests, if you couldn't anymore. So, say for example, you needed surgery or there was some health issue with you and you couldn't make that decision. Who do you trust to make a decision in terms of whether you have that surgery or not?
Right. And would generally powers of attorney for people you nominate, financial, personal, be the same for medical?
Quite often they are. Sometimes people will say, well, I've got my son's an accountant and my daughter's a nurse, for example. So they'll have the son as a financial empowered, primary financial and personal power of attorney, and then have their daughter as the first medical treatment decision maker, but list them both together. That's an option. And quite often someone will say, well, no, I just want the same kids for both.
Fantastic. Now, there's going through the process myself recently, where I've had the medical attorney put in place, and you provided me documents for an Advanced Care Directive. We're quite a confronting document and a thought process to go through to consider, what I would like to happen if I'm out of action. I felt as though that it's quite an important document. If I give one of my children the responsibility to make medical decisions on my behalf, I need to give them some type of direction. Can you give us an overview of these Advanced Care Directives?
Well, that's exactly right, Rob. That's what it's good for, is to make the job of being a medical treatment decision maker a lot easier, because they're faced with very difficult decisions. What the Advanced Care Directive does is sets out what you would like in terms of your medical care. So the first part of the document generally says what's important to you in terms of how you live your life. For example, you might say, I want to live independently for as long as possible. You can put in there your religious beliefs, people you want involved in your care, that kind of thing. The second part of the document actually sets out what medical treatment you consent to and what you refuse. So for example, you might say, I don't want to have to be reliant on tube feeding. I don't have to be reliant on tube feeding. That makes it a lot easier for the kids if they get put in that situation where they say, oh, I don't think mum would have wanted this, I don't think she would have wanted to be in this situation. But I'm not sure. Whereas if you've got the Advanced Care Directive and say, well, mum clearly didn't want this, I know what to do. So it can make their job a lot easier.
Right, so really, without that, the Advanced Care Directives, your medical attorneys are flying blind, and it puts them in a awkward position because we didn't really know what mum or dad wanted, and so that puts them under a lot of pressure they really shouldn't need.
That's right. Exactly right.
Fantastic. Very good. Thank you very much for your time, Patrick, and really valuable information.
Thanks, Rob.